All right, it looks like we're set. Well, good morning, everyone. Happy to be here with you this morning and excited to reconnect. This is our bi-monthly business meeting for the Vermont Outdoor Recreation Economic Collaborative Steering Committee. Um, these meetings are informal opportunities for us to stay connected throughout the year, and to connect on what's going on within the different parts of Vermont's outdoor sector. Um, so we do, instead of doing introductions this morning, what I thought is as we go around and do our round robin updates, it would be helpful for you to just kick us off with your name and organization, just so it's clear who you are. We do have Eric joining us this morning from the Vermont ATV Sportsmen Association, and I think it'll be helpful for him to hear who everyone is. But just a couple quick housekeeping items from me before we go around and do our round robin updates. There has been a lot happening since we met in, what was that, July? Feels like a long time ago, but really it was just last month. And one of the things that I wanted to share with you all is that Tommy, after following our July meeting, reached out and let us know about his departure from VASA. This happened, his last day was earlier this month, so it was quite quick. And we are working with VTGC on next steps and for that motorized, the VTGC motorized position. But in the meantime, Eric was able to join us this morning. He's joining as a partner to help us stay connected on what VASA is doing and what's happening in motorized outdoor recreation in the state. So I wanted to welcome Eric. Um, and Eric, just for the group, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself real quick, just for context, and then I have a couple of other housekeeping items.
Sure. So, I'm the office manager and was the grants administrator prior to Tommy's departure. And aside from my new role as main person drinking from the fire hose, it's definitely fallen on me to sort of step in here and get anything coming and going that Tommy was touching. And Tommy had his hands obviously in everything. So I'm trying to jump in. We're currently looking for a new executive director, and a bunch of us have thrown our hats in the ring, and then we're looking outside and that stuff. So that kind of position will be posted soon. But in the meanwhile, all the business of VASA at our busiest time of the year, both building trails, maintaining trails, and the nonstop onslaught of membership coming in prior to the fall campaign, and most of the riding that goes on in the fall is kind of what we're up to. My background is yes, I've always been an outdoorsman, but I've been a financial planner for 30 years and got pulled into voluntold to jump into VASA's stuff to try to change some things here and help with the marketing end of things. And now I'm thrust into pretty much having my hands in everything. And then this meeting popped up and made me think, boy, better not be something VASA's missing that we're supposed to be at. So I'm happy to help and fill in and certainly volunteer for anything that's going on. So thanks you guys for having me.
Yeah, thanks, Eric, for jumping in at the last minute. Um, so other housekeeping items connected to this conversation, we are continuing to work on recruitment for open positions. So obviously we're adding VTGC's motorized seat into that. But Becca, Heather, and I have met and identified top candidates to fill those positions at that point. We're really excited, and a lot of that, again, is thanks to the nominations that you all shared with us. If you nominated someone who is one of our top candidates, we will be asking you for your assistance in connecting with those folks. So please expect to receive an email from me with more information shortly. And Becker, Heather, I didn't know if you might want to add anything at this time for the steering committee, or if that's, yeah, please feel free to jump in and share anything else regarding to recruitment.
I can't think of anything else to add except, sharing my gratitude once again. When we met and went through the candidates, we're really impressed by the breadth of experience that folks are networked to and offered up as suggestions for candidates. And I guess the only other thing that I would put out there that you didn't mention, Jackie, is beginning to talk with A&R leadership about what it would look like to make some modifications to the executive order that would allow us to consider different seats. So more to come on that. But in the meanwhile, feeling really good about the steps before us to try and get those positions filled before the end of the year.
Yeah, I would just echo that. I truly, really appreciated everyone's suggestions. And we had a lot of potential candidates that were amazing. So if anyone's preferred candidate or any suggestion, you provided doesn't end up coming to fruition, is only because of the great amount of talent out there and all the good ideas, but it was very helpful. Thanks.
Great. So connected to what Becca was sharing about our exploration of the executive order and what amendments we might want to make, we did have a robust conversation about Move Forward Together Vermont implementation at our meeting in July. We dove in and identified some of the gaps and opportunities for building partnerships. And for those who weren't there, I just wanted to share a little bit about that conversation. A lot of what we talked about focused on identifying gaps that we want to fill for partnership meetings that we want to start in the fall, winter of this year. And also your involvement as steering committee members in implementation sessions, which are currently scheduled to be connected to the Vermont Conference on Parks Recreation, Parks, Trails and Recreation, which is in early October, as well as the Vermont Outdoor Business Alliance's Outdoor Economy Summit, which is in mid-November. And you should have those on your calendar already, but if you don't, please reach out and let me know. I've been working on next steps following our conversation in July. I'm working hard to identify some partners who really fill those gaps that we identified, and getting clear on where your involvement will be most valuable. So I wanted to let you know my hope is to get you more information by early September so we can really start to identify where you can be involved in the opportunities that are coming up and that I'm working to schedule. The other housekeeping item, real quick, before I turn the floor over to you. Earlier this week, I went to Washington, D.C. to participate in a roundtable discussion that the National Governors Association hosted. The conversation was on the intersection of public health and outdoor recreation and brought together a lot of state directors from offices of outdoor recreation across the country, as well as public health representatives from within our states and other outdoor recreation representatives. It was a really good conversation. I think a good start to our exploration of the nexus of public health and outdoor recreation, which is something we have also identified as a gap in our work on outdoor recreation. So it's really interesting to hear perspectives from other states. Some of the things I took away that I think you'll be interested in, there are really like three areas where we feel like public health and outdoor recreation really come together. And those are in like social and emotional health, physical health, as well as mental health. I also learned about some models for estimating impacts that were shared with the group. And really the gap in what these models can do for us is like we really need to understand how we want to measure and how we want to think about things like reductions in physical health costs. Like, what exactly are we looking at when we're talking about that? Like, reductions in mental health costs and the impacts of outdoor recreation on longer and more productive careers. So that was part of some of the discussion we had. I also learned about some interesting work that Michigan has done and what they've done is used their statewide comprehensive outdoor recreation plan and some of the survey work that they did as part of their user survey to estimate overall illness savings by county. It was really interesting to know that they've done that work, and I thought you would be interested in taking a look at it. So I'm just going to drop that into the chat. All right. So you can take a look at that website and see what Michigan's done. There's other information that they've sort of pulled out from that participation data. But if you look at the map and click on the counties, you can find that sort of overall illness savings that they've calculated. And then the last thing I wanted to share is the next step for the National Governors Association is to create a policy brief that they'll be sharing with governors. They let us know that they'll share a draft with participants in that roundtable discussion before they publish it and share that with governors. So any questions before I turn the floor over to you to share updates, round robin updates? Great. All right, and not seeing any, I think I'll go to Becca and Heather for updates, any agency updates on activity that's happened since the last time we met.
Gosh, I didn't really think of anything in advance. Maybe I know. Heather,
Becca,
do you
I
have
think
anything you want to offer up?
I can go first and give you some time to think.
Thank you. I'm like, boy, what in the world?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting this time of year, we are, in full force for our summer campaign. We've been working on a couple different production projects. So I think I may have mentioned just in terms of partnerships, where that interfaces with Outdoor Rec and so forth. We work with Myrna Valerio this summer to do some vertical videos specifically for social to promote the state. We were doing filming with P3's, a production company out of Maine, to do a series of new hero videos for us, summer, fall, winter, and a 4-season one. And we've also been working with an agency, Proverb Agency out of Boston, on a BIPOC visitation strategy. They also have been here filming. So a lot of work in that sort of like creative production realm, making sure we are adequately promoting the state. And then I would say the other thing that is always on the top of our mind is just the strain in relations with the Canadian market, and what we can possibly do to mitigate that. We've done a bunch of message testing. I've been working with the governor's team specifically in terms of how bold we feel collectively we can go in terms of our messaging. It's certainly maybe taken longer than maybe we thought we might be able to do when we first started the summer. I think there was this feeling like, oh my gosh, we're seeing this decline in visitation. What can we do? And I think as the summer has gone on, and happy to hear, Abby's perspective and others, I think there's more and more of a realization, which is not that this was new, that this is a long-term issue for us, right? This is about, how can we protect the brand and the reputation and our relationship with our neighbors, which is not, there's no quick fix to that. We can't change federal policy. So we've really approached this in being cautious to make sure that we don't sort of step in it and make anything to seem like we're tone deaf. So all that to say, that doesn't mean that, and we've been in the Canadian market the whole time. Sorry, we'll wrap this up. We do have some new messaging coming out shortly. We are also coupling that with deals and discounts that we've put together that are available for Canadians. So if anyone, sort of retail or services or, recreation offer, that they're willing to provide a discount to the Canadian market. We do now have a vehicle to promote that. So that's where we're up to.
And Heather and everyone, I did forward the last message that the Department of Tourism put out about participating in those deals and discounts. So you should have received that email. And if not, please feel free to reach out to me. I can forward it to you again.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that, Jackie.
Thanks, Heather. You gave me a chance to think of a few things. Building on your talk about tourism and visitation, we did get a report from state parks that they are back up to the levels, kind of like overall levels for 2024, which is great. They're always trying to at least match or exceed the visitation at state parks. The out-of-state camping numbers are down, but in-state camping and day use have more than made up for any of the dips in visitation that they're also attributing mostly to Canadian visitation. So that's exciting to see that improvements in the weather after a pretty wet start to the summer have made it so that state parks are doing really well. I think the only other thing that's occupying a ton of my time has been the Act 59, the Community Resilience and Biodiversity Protection Act work. Saw some of you at regional stakeholder meetings, which was fantastic. We had several hundred people through the course of those visits around the state last month. And I think we're still kind of in the process of distilling the information that came from those meetings, but overall really pleased with the thoughtfulness and the depth of creativity and ideas that were generated as part of those conversations. The Technical Advisory Committee has had a chance to sort of meet since then and begin to think about what it means to synthesize what we heard and potentially form other groups to dig in on either issues of opportunity or tension. So I expect that'll likely be the next phase of work on behalf of the TAC, of which for recreation, Nick Bennett and Alex Smith from Backcountry Hunters and Anglers are basically our representatives, in addition to me being part of the project management team and a member of the Technical Advisory Committee. So if you have questions or thoughts that you want to share, please do feel free to reach out to one of the three of us. And otherwise, we'll be sure to let you know when the next sort of public engagement opportunity is going to be, which is likely to be December. Thanks, Jackie.
Great. Thanks, Becca and Heather. So now I'd like to turn the floor over to steering committee members for round robin updates. And please feel free, we'll do this popcorn style. Feel free to jump in when you're ready. And Eric, as a partner who's here to listen, as well as share some updates on behalf of VASA, please feel free to jump in when you're ready as well. Looks like
if nobody wants to go first, I can.
Oh. Go ahead, Carrie. Go for it.
Okay. I won't be long. Sorry. Unfortunately, I missed the June meeting, so I've got reports from way back. We have wrapped up I'm sorry. I'm supposed to introduce myself first, right? Carrie Thomas with the Northern Forest Canoe Trail, and I'm the executive director. We're a long distance paddling trail that starts in the Adirondacks and ends in Maine. Obviously, the middle of that is Vermont. So we run across the northern part of the state on across Lake Champlain, the Missisquoi River, the Clyde River, and the Nullhegan. And then I know that technically the Connecticut is part of New Hampshire, but it sure does butt up against Vermont. So we kind of feel like that's shared territory. We have a stewardship crew that spends its 10 weeks every summer working its way across the trail, and they spent 3 weeks in Vermont doing work this summer. The first was kind of a fun local project. Our offices are in Waitsfield, and they put a really beautiful set of stone steps into the pond at Boyce Hill Town Forest, which is a place that's near and dear to my heart, and had this big slippery muddy bank, and now the people can swim in the pond without it all getting disgusting, which is nice. And then after that they moved up to Highgate Falls. Actually no, the next project was at Marble Mill Park in Swanton. They improved the access there and portage route there, and then to Highgate Falls and improved the portage route there. In the middle of all of that, we hosted our annual Paddle Pedal, which is a really fun, family-friendly race or ramble, really. It paddles down the Missisquoi for 6.5 miles and then back up the Missisquoi Valley Rail Trail from East Berkshire back up to Richford. And it's just a super, super fun event. We did have people from Canada. We always have Canadians come to that race, and we did have them again. So we were really pleased that our community had faith in us on that front. We also had a larger group than we've ever had. We had 81 participants, and we really feel like the max is 100, and that, but that could actually be more than we can handle because it's just a small put in. So really, really fun race. Again, the second or the third year in a row, there was some flooding really near to the race, and it is kind of a nerve-wracking time, and we're considering changing the race date to June because July seems to be the time of year when it floods. So that's kind of an impact that a way that we're trying to shift. And we also did some extensive work on the Lamoille River, partnering with the Lamoille River Paddlers Trail and local folks. We did 2 river cleanups, and we're in the hoping to do a 3rd river cleanup this summer. We got a whole bunch of really big detritus out of the river. So we're really pleased to be able to keep working on that, and that is part of our VOREC flood resilience funding. We were supposed to do a different access point as a part of that funding, and it turned out that the town of Johnson's priorities had changed. And so we shifted that. We tried to shift the access point to a different location, and that didn't work out. So we just wound up putting our energy into getting the trash and disgusting things out of the river. So that's been really wonderful and fun. In terms of the Trail Accessibility Hub, we haven't done any more assessments because we really completed all our assessments last year, although I think we're going to do one more before the end of the season. We've been working with everybody over there to put together the waterway access page for the Trail Accessibility Hub website. And we've been working with paddlers with disabilities to try and pull together some trip descriptions, essentially describing their experience of going out on the water and talking about places that work for them and places that don't work for them, ways that they do and don't work. So just trying to provide more first person experiential information for paddlers with disabilities looking for places where they can go and know what to expect and not anticipate complications. And I think that's most of it. It's been a whirlwind.
Thanks, Carrie. I can go next. My name is Abby Long. I serve on VOREC as the Vermont Trails and Greenway Council seat, which I will at least be continuing in till next May 2026. I have had a role change. I was the executive director for Kingdom Trails. I am in the midst of that transition as I'll be taking on interim executive director for the NEK Collaborative, which I love Kingdom Trails with all my heart, but I am very excited to take on a broader role for my region. So I'll still be able to champion outdoor recreation, but I'll get to advocate for all the other amazing industries that make the kingdom so special, like the forest industry, creative economy, education, healthcare, food, agriculture, and how all those sectors complement each other and intersect. to help uplift the kingdom. The collaborative also is the organization that houses the MOU with USDA, because the kingdom's a designated REAP zone. And so I'm able to share with USDA priorities, challenges, needs of the kingdom in order to funnel further funds into this region. So I'm really excited to start learning my new role. I officially will make the full transition after Labor Day. So wearing 2 hats right now. So I can speak still to Kingdom Trails, where Heather mentioned, we are definitely still feeling the tension with Quebec in our region and on our trails. The numbers of Canadians have perked up a little bit, but nothing compared to years past. We are trying really hard to still extend that maple leaf to them, and we had a pretty successful campaign, not just Kingdom Trails, but mountain bike networks all across the state, with Canada Rides Free Day, which was August 2nd. Heather might have actual numbers. I know KT had a huge flux of Canadians come that weekend. So the whole goal, even though KT didn't benefit financially, I mean, they probably bought some retail, and they're hopefully gonna, feel that friendship and that welcome and come back next year when they're ready. But we hope they were spending money on lodging, gear, food, and everywhere else in our region, because that's the whole point of our trail network in our community, is to benefit the economy. And this week, with wearing my new hat, I was able to strengthen those connections cross-border even more so. I was able to join Secretary Curley and Anson, or Secretary Tibbetts. Everyone just knows him as Anson, I feel. But a couple other NEK state senators, and good old Tim Tierney was with me. And we went up to Quotacook and had a wonderful dinner. Just incredible camaraderie, and it was really comforting to feel that the leaders in Quebec feel very similar to the leaders here in Vermont, that both of our economies are feeling the pressures of this federal tension, and that we need to continue and strengthen the relationship and make sure that the relationship is not lost through all of this. So we're trying to just take action on the levels that we can control, which is Vermont, Northeast Kingdom, and right across the border in the Eastern Townships in Quebec.
Abby, who from Quebec were you meeting with?
Oh, a member of Parliament. I could email her name. She represents Comstead and Stansted area in the Eastern Townships. There are a couple of their chamber members up there for the Eastern Townships, and I'll send you a list of names, Jackie. I can't remember everyone who was there.
That's okay. I was just curious.
It was ACCD definitely organized it with, and I think they're having another gathering. I won't be able to join. It's in a couple of weeks, and it will be a boat ride on Memphremagog. We're inviting their contingent down to the kingdom. So good things.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that, Abby. I was sorry that I missed it again. I was at a conference in Arizona, but there will be those cross-border events, I think, they're really impactful. And I just keep hearing such great things about, I don't know, you can't take those relationships for granted. So, and I think just to also mention that there were 2 state senators who joined that trip as well. So I think the fact that the legislature is also involved just kind of shows our commitment. So I have not heard more exact attendance information or participation on the Ride Free Day, but we did, just so other folks know, we did support that effort with paid social advertising, which was interesting because, of course, social, you get lots of comments, and there was lots of, unfortunately, not great comments, but people did really appreciate that we provided a French translation. So that was nice to hear. And I was really kind of buoyed by what I heard you say, Abby, was that you were seeing Canadians who had not been here before. So
yes,
I think that's just kind of nuances in terms of, how people are approaching this idea of to travel or not to travel, and who's willing to do it or not. So
I guess real quick, I think it you mentioned the two state senators that joined. It was Scott Beck and Russ Ingalls, who are two Republican state senators who represent the kingdom. And I was really pleased to hear, party's not the issue here. At least at the Vermont level. I'm trying to sound really eloquent right now, but that they have recognized the federal impacts are extremely negative on the kingdom and the rest of Vermont, and that they are not in agreement what's happening at the federal level. They see how the relationship with Canada is vital. It's awesome.
Who's next?
Can I just say, Abby, I don't have your new contact information. I know you sent out something and I think I neglected to either take it down, but I would love to be kept up to speed on the conversations around Memphremagog and that sort of thing. We obviously
Totally.
send paddlers across the border there on a frequent basis and have to work with folks on both sides. So it would be great to just kind of keep up with that.
I just popped it in the chat.
Nice. Thank you. Perfect.
I could jump in real quick. I just finished my 10th year in a row, 10th different state park camping, daddy-daughter camping, and we went to Woodford State Park in southern Vermont. It's a gem if anybody ever gets a chance to get all the way down to the bottom of the state. Amazing time there, and the staff was great, and the crew next to us that set up the second day, man, they were loud, but it was their 11th year in a row family camping at the state park, and they took up 4 spots right next to us, and they even brought a movie screen and hosted a movie one night, and it was crazy. They were dialed, let me tell you. So we had some fun with those guys, but on the state park theme too, we expanded to Stratton and Bromley, Vermont Adaptive. So now we're at 8 different resorts, which unlocked a lot of new state parks in southern Vermont for us as well. So we've been down at Emerald a little bit more than normal. We are going to explore down the Shaftesbury and a few other state parks in that region. For next year for programming, we are going to open up more programming down in southern Vermont, which is going to be super cool for us and for folks in southern Vermont. We're really getting a big taste of southern Vermont, and the 30th annual Garlic Festival is next weekend in Bennington, if anybody wants to go down for that. On the VOREC angle for us, we are amidst our economic impact analysis survey. We're breaking out biking, paddling, and sailing, and all of our summer activities. We did quantify winter, and I do have a graphic I'll send over to everybody. The average participant traveling party was 3.1 people. The average volunteer traveling party was 2.1. The average length of stay was 2.8 days. It equated to $3.5 million to the local economy, and that's 3,000 outings, just over that. So that's just our program. We are going to run that through the summer. We did also create an event survey, so folks that are coming to the state for major events like our Vermont 100, and we've gotten a ton of responses from that. The Vermont 50 is going to also get that survey, and just for your knowledge, somebody completed the 100-mile run in just over 15 hours, which is absolutely insane. So give you that heads up. We were filming with KBF and VIMBA for the T-term grant for the KBF for adaptive sports programming, and then we were also filming with VIMBA for the T-term grant for how to create an adaptive trail. So those videos are in production right now. I have seen the Kelly Brush Foundation T-term grant videos. They're amazing. They kind of mimic a lot of the videos we did a couple years ago with the T-term grant. So they're a little bit more refreshed, and they do showcase accessible play throughout the state. So they're going to be pretty cool to release. And we are presenting at the Outdoor Economy Summit in a couple of weeks down in Cherokee, North Carolina, on the economic impact analysis, as well as our trail assessments. And then we will be presenting in a week and a half at the Quebec Mountain Bike Symposium on adaptive mountain biking and our accessible trail and how we're assessing trails. We assessed 10 trail systems so far this year. I think that is, oh, and then I'm in the process right now of renewing all our ski resort contracts. And in talking to a lot of the resorts, they all seem pretty stoked on how season pass sales have been going. That's not saying the Canadian group, but in country, pass sales seem to be doing pretty well, and people are really stoked. The Boston Ski Show is coming up in November. We'll have a presence at that, and that show actually has really been reinvigorated. It kind of died off a few years, and now it's kind of really gaining more momentum. So I think people are really getting stoked to get back into winter here in Vermont. So that's about all I have right now. Sorry, I didn't steal any of your thunder, Jeff, about the inclusive spaces. I'll let you jump on that one.
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, I was wondering if it was coming up. So I'll pop in. I'm Sarah Pelkey. I'm the Community Development Director for the town of Poultney. I'm on the VOREC Steering Committee for Economic Development at large. And yeah, I'll start out with the Society for Outdoor Recreation Professionals hosted an Inclusive Spaces workshop and Train the Trainer series in Poultney this past week at our high school. Jeff was there, as well as many folks from the state and actually nationwide. So there was maybe 30 to 40 people that attended that event, and it was really incredible to have that happen in Poultney. And just have folks out in our community networking. I couldn't believe the diversity of sectors and just really the representatives that were in that room. So thank you to VOREC and everyone who helped support that. One of the key takeaways just for this group that we haven't been able to implement really successfully yet is wayfinding. So the workshop took a group out on Tuesday, and we sort of did an analysis of some of the trails, the Poultney River Loop, and the downtown environment. So wayfinding was one of the big things that was identified as some wayfinding and physical changes to the environment. So that happened. And then I also visited Bellows Falls with Jackie and Heather, and I think a few other folks that were out for the VOREC visit to the community. I can't remember the governor's capital for a day, I think was
that's exactly it.
Thank you, Jackie. So that was really great to meet some of the partners down there and hear from Gary Fox and some of the planners at the regional, and just hear a bit about the work that they've been doing. Some really great takeaways there, and some studies with some of the higher education institutions sort of in Massachusetts and New Hampshire. And I can't think of the name of it right now. Maybe Jackie has it, but sorry,
should
Jackie,
have it off the top of my head. But Chris Campany.
Chris Campany, yes, thank you. And I haven't read it.
The school was Antioch.
Antioch. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
was the University of New Hampshire, there was a program in the University of New Hampshire that I think was also involved, but
yeah, we'll have to dig that up because it got passed around. It looked like an excellent report, and Chris was very proud of it. So some takeaways there. And what else is happening? I guess the other thing that I might talk about here is that I did some reporting last night for Poultney's Outdoor Recreation Roundtable grant for the Rec Hub development that we're working on. And I hadn't had to report on grants in a while, and it gave me an opportunity to think about some of the things that are happening. And I think I would share with the VOREC group really like what's coming to light for me right now is the importance of the events that are happening in the Poultney community and in the area. So there are town events through Poultney Recreation, business events through Analog Cycles. They host a 4x4 ride. Analog Cycles is also starting to host a lot of community events that are very like low barrier, intended to be just the community, like come as you are type thing with come as what you have. In terms of bicycle use. And so they have a slow rollers ride that's happening every Thursday where they just explore areas in the in Poultney, but they're also starting to go out to Rutland, Middlebury, Granville, New York, and some of these places to explore like creative sector museums and the state parks. And I think it's worth noting that that is really you know, an interesting and approachable event for the community. So there's that, and then Slate Valley Trails Epic. You know, it seems like there was really well attended this year. So those events I think are really important, particularly in the summer and the fall, to continue the outdoor recreation sector and really identity of the community. So I think that's kind of it for my update. I could probably go on, but hopefully I covered it. And Jeff, feel free to chime back in if there's more from Vermont Adaptive in terms of the inclusive spaces.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that that was an amazing gathering with Rachel Francina and Jerry Davis. They put on a great program, and it was more. It wasn't really that style of sitting up there telling you how to do things. It was an immersive experience for everybody, and the bike demo that we hosted was great. And Von Trapp came in and sponsored the happy hour, of course. But I think it was great for everybody to. The fact that there was somebody from, you know, Pennsylvania DNR, there was somebody from Maine, there were people, lots of folks from New York and the state of New York recreation departments that came over for that. I think it definitely expanded, and it was good to collaborate and just get everybody's knowledge of how they're doing things in their own communities and weathering the storm that we're all kind of in right now. Definitely.
Thank you. Sorry, and sorry, Claire was there too. I forgot. Sorry, Claire. But I just wanted to say the folks that I was sitting with at that training were from the south side of Boston, Southie, and there was a phys ed teacher there, or a teacher who was bringing phys ed to schools that didn't have any activities, like any physical education curriculum in their schools. So it was really incredible to see some of the folks that were there and the approach they were taking to the work.
That's really great to hear. I know, like, that workshop when we were looking at grant applications in the last round of the VOREC Community Grant Program was one that was the one that stood out and that we thought sounded really interesting. And that Claire, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that was an application to the equity track that we piloted during the last round of the grant program. Great. I think, Ava, you're the last steering committee member, and then we could do sort of a round robin of partners as well.
Sure, thanks. Yes, my name is Eva Rose. I own and operate Lamoille Valley Bike Tours, which is a bike rental and tour business that operates on the Lamoille Valley Rail Trail, and we also provide a full rail trail bike shuttle service. So, you know, some updates I can give. I call this the second year the full trail is open. I don't count 2023 with the flood and the closure for the summer. What's been really interesting to see is a huge uptick in usership on the rail trail for full trail travel, as well as shorter visitation, shorter travel on the rail trail compared to last year. It has probably quadrupled in usership since last year. So it will be interesting. We're still in such an early, you know, it's in its infancy. So it'll be interesting to see how quickly the expansion of usership continues to evolve. The biggest challenge for travelers, I can say, is obviously the lack of lodging. I know there was a survey put out a little while ago on sort of what are the gaps and amenities needed for the rail trail. And so I speak with hundreds of travelers a week, and that what is stagnating the travel right now for the rail trail is obviously, like I said, that lack of lodging, particularly in the western end of the rail trail from Cambridge to Swanton. But the hot peak destinations are Cambridge and Hardwick, and they are trying to, these towns are trying to catch up to the demand that the rail trail is bringing to their communities. So it's a good problem to have, but in the meantime, I as well are struggling to provide optimal lodging opportunities for travelers. So, there's a lot of folks that are waiting it out, waiting till more infrastructure develops along the rail trail. So the good news is we should be having, there's a lot of folks very interested and planning to come. And we did have we've had lots and lots of travelers so far this year. September looks like a very busy month, and that's one thing I'm noticing about rail trail travel in general. September is a really popular time for rail trail travel, which tends to be when sort of those small local recreational activities slow down with school starting and people sort of getting back to life. So it's interesting to see this difference in that volume and interest with a rail trail versus the other things Vermont has to offer. So that's been great to see. Canadian usership for us has been pretty steady, but there's no way to compare that to what it could normally be with this being the second year that you can actually ride a rail trail without any. There are still some closures, but last year was pretty slow with that second flood in July, really discouraging travel to Vermont for rail trail travel, for rail trail use. So again, pretty steady Canadian participation, but not sure what that comparison could be in a better political climate. But that's pretty optimistic to see that the rail trail is really motivating Canadians to come here regardless. And so one thing I'm working on diligently is connecting these travelers to our local attractions, lodging, amenities, everything that they need. That's kind of my job with the business I run and our shuttle business as well, sort of helping folks with their itineraries. So I'm really digging into and plan to, especially this winter, dig into more lodging opportunities and tapping into some of those farther destinations off the trail and seeing the engaging interest in folks sort of there are some lodgers that are willing to go out and pick folks up with their bikes and bring them several miles off the rail trail on the roads to their lodging, and that's helped a lot with filling in those gaps where folks are struggling to find lodging. So that's sort of, the rail trail updates. Very optimistic. I think fall is going to be very busy, but not so much for rail trail travel, more for day use with the cold, colder temperatures and whatnot. But time will tell. So again, this is such a brand new time for the rail trail, and we're just learning as we go. On a side note, Jackie, though, I did from our last meeting where we were identifying those gaps in who we should bring to the table for Move Forward Together Vermont. There's definitely a handful of social media influencers from Vermont that I think would be really appropriate. In particular, Vermont Explored, Tara Schatz from Vermont Explored, Travel Like a Local, and The Real Vermont. They do, of course, cover covered bridges and historic barns and all sorts of assets in Vermont, but recreation is a huge platform, is a huge part of their platform, outdoor recreation, and we've partnered with several of them for highlighting the Lamoille Valley Rail Trail, and some of those posts and blogs have exploded, and it's really catching on. But I think that since they use outdoor recreation so much for their own platforms, they would be an important piece of that gap to fill, and could bring a lot to that table.
Thanks, Ava. That's great to know. I was taking notes as you were talking, but if you want to send those contacts,
I will definitely
to me directly, that would be great. I think that for me connects to our conversation about media and building those relationships, primarily through me taking that on, unless as part of our sort of partnership meetings with steering committee members. But that's great. Thank you.
So if I could just say, Eva, I'm really happy to hear that you're doing that advocacy work in terms of like trying to fill that lodging gap. So, please, let's keep talking. I'm just keep thinking about, the more we can kind of prove that use case to, obviously like getting people to build new lodging facilities is not like an easy task, but how can we chip away at that? even if it comes to, supporting vacation rentals, short-term rentals in your community, that's probably the most logical option. So making sure that like local leaders understand, that
Right.
this is not about a few bad apples and this, without getting into housing policy, but, there are some real, like this, it is a way that we house our guests.
Right.
And so how can we be part of those conversations that people understand what we're missing if we're not able to kind of help entrepreneurs, small business owners think of lodging as, a real growth potential for our
Right.
communities. So
yes, I know there's several towns that are working on, actually my town of Johnson in particular, possibly Wolcott as well, developing campsites. And one tricky, most most travelers currently have to use things like Airbnb, and that's a challenge because most Airbnbs require minimum night stays. When you're traveling by bike across a rail trail, you're looking for a one-night stay, and so that's been a challenge is trying to identify and trying to convince some Airbnb owners to be a little flexible on their minimum night stays and things like that. I understand the challenges for them to do that, but yes, absolutely, Heather. And I could connect you with or anyone who's interested in some of these towns that are working on developing the campsites. Our rail trail it's interesting because it's under 100 miles. And there's such a difference between a rail trail that can be 105 miles and the usership and the mileage proximity that travelers parcel their days out for versus just being 93, just 10 miles under 100, technically 7 miles under 100, and what that difference is. Just studying other rail trails, and I could go on forever, so I'll stop. But yes, yeah, agreed.
Great, thanks, Ava. Kelly, Claire, Eric, any updates you want to share with the group? Just looking at time, we have about 6 minutes left.
I'll jump in with just a quick review, if that's okay. Everybody hear that? Sorry, I'm not on mute.
Sounds great, Eric.
So just VASA has so much going on this time of year. Everything from we just completed our annual meeting with a record number of people showed up down in West Fairleigh. We had John Rogers and the senator from Orange, speak at it. Kind of had a pretty rousing thing about outdoor recreation that we were really pleased with. We just finished our second large, I believe, VOREC grant project in both Roxbury, Northfield, and now Hardwick, finished yesterday to reopen trails that have still been a mess from the floods in the last couple of years. And so our trails crew are out there trying to kill it to get those trail systems and trails that were closed back open. We're currently trying to bring on 2 new clubs, so we're at 24 clubs. We're trying to bring in another couple of clubs, one in Lunenburg and another as Aston Brookfield, Vermont. So we're going through the landowner stuff for that. I just wanted to take 2 seconds and mention something since I've handled membership since last June. And my marketing background was to try to do something. We thought the biggest growth area would be Canada, to come across the border. And from last year's numbers of just dozens and dozens of Canadians who had VASA memberships and came here and rode and brought groups and teams, I can count on one hand how many we've had this year. And, it's something we really thought was going to be a marketing area to open. That message that was sent the other day where maybe we could do some discounts or stuff is a little hard for us, but I'm trying, because we have to ask the membership whether you can give a discount and what the pricing is for VASA passes. But could we do a reciprocal day? Could we do we see how much riding they have up there if they stay, but how much riding they can just come across the border and do with us for something new. It seems like a no-brainer, but it's been a really tough road to hoe, regardless of where we put ads or what we do, at least so far. And then the other part for us is law enforcement this year. Law enforcement's been kind of working within themselves to rework things, and we despite our large budget for that, just flat out can't get folks out and about to have enough law enforcement. and that means people don't join the clubs. They ride dirty. They're also then not insured, and so that comes with problems that we're trying to tackle. And in the fall, when we get our busiest riding season, that's what we're pushing up to right now is, can we collaborate as best we can with both law enforcement to get those numbers up, do marketing to get those folks out. You mentioned lodging. That's always an issue for us when folks come. A third of all our stuff is from out of state or out of country. Big uptick is from New York for us more recently as more of their trails close. But to the extent that, we're working on it for fall leaf peeping as much as we can to see if we can't have a way bigger fall. We're off 10 or 15% from last year's numbers, and last year was off 10% from the year before and 10% from the year before that, with the all-time highs near COVID of folks using motorized stuff. And so we're battling that all the time and trying to fill that in. And we really thought that would be Canada this year, but yeah, so that's where we are. The fall is the busiest for us. We're up to our necks in it, fixing trails and trying to get memberships pushed through, and then marketing to get people to get out, just get out and about. Any questions on that? I'm happy to answer if I can.
Thanks, Eric. I'm going to turn the floor over to Kelly just because we only have a couple minutes left, and I know there's been a lot going on in the VOBA space. And Kelly, if you need a little more time, if folks need to jump off, please feel free, but I'd love to give Kelly the space to provide her updates too.
Fine, and I have another call at 12, so I have a couple minutes here, but I'm putting things in the chat so you can go ahead and look into it. I think VOBA's work has been largely around planning our 5-event series. We've had support this summer and from the Northern Border Regional Commission grants working with VOREC and FPR, and it's really helped us set up the capacity on organizing the business membership across the state and engaging them in the 4 issues that came out of the Move Forward Together Vermont process. So our 4 events, one of which was last night, well attended by close to 50 people on innovation and sustainability. We'll cover those 4 issues from climate resilience, equity, innovation and sustainability, and career partnerships. Career pathways over the next few months. All of those conversations and business engagement efforts will culminate in the 7th annual Outdoor Economy Summit on November 13th. That's going to be at the Burke Mountain Resort, which we are psyched to bring attention to the Northeast Kingdom, the town of Burke, the recreation organizations and assets in that region that have really elevated that as a destination and made it a model for others as a local economy based in outdoor recreation. So our event last night, it was great to have Jackie there to speak. We were at Burton Snowboards. Jeff was in the audience. A lot of networking around circularity and sustainability, and a perfect example of how we want these events to go. Our next event, I'll just pitch, is on 9/3. It's going to be in Middlebury, and it is on equity partnerships, again, featuring Vermont Adaptive. We'll have other groups from Vermont Professionals of Color Network to Vermont Parks Forever, Kelly Brush Foundation, Come Alive Outside, High Fives Foundation. We'll really showcase some of the great work happening in communities and how businesses can be partners and collaborators in the efforts. So I'm afraid I'm going to have to cut out now, but would love to continue talking. There is a link in there to our fall professional development trainings. We are continuing those with support through VDTM and the EDA grant. The links are not live, but the schedule is there. They should be live by the end of the day, but we're excited to continue training the ski techs, the bike mechanics, and the trail builders of the state to better support our retail, resort, and small businesses. So anyway, thank you for all that you do and for the partnership, and happy to continue to have dialogue offline or in the weeks and months to come, and hope to see you soon.
Great. Thanks, Kelly. Have a good
Thank
next
you.
meeting.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for being here this morning. We are at time and are going to adjourn our meeting. But like I said, I'll be following up with you about next steps for Move Forward Together Vermont implementation. And there's a lot of work happening. So I'm excited to see you out and about. Those events Kelly mentioned, if you don't have information on when those are happening, I did send out upcoming events email last week. I hope you received it, but again, if you didn't, please let me know and I can forward that information to you. Any other last thoughts? All right. Well then, We'll see you at the next meeting, everyone. And I hope you have a great afternoon and weekend.
Thanks,
you.
everybody. Great
Thanks,
to see
everybody.
you.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Thank you. Good luck with school starting.